this is a quick one. You know me. And this is a thing we do at the weekend. We're going to do this now because I have so much material left over in the week that I haven't actually managed to use from the stories that I haven't actually managed to cover because I like to have a life. I thought I'd, at the weekend, just patch them all together into one file and then I can delete them from my computer and make more material. So, let's have our first cassette, please. And so here we are at the BBC News Channel Outtakes Department. A Nigel Farage speech had just been broadcast on the channel, as to the delight of the listeners and viewers everywhere, who sat agog as Mr. Farage set about his putting the worlds to rights. However, at the end of his speech, a microphone was left open and a newscaster was heard to cast her personal opinion on Mr. Farage's oratory. It was less than complimentary, we understand, and she was forced to issue an apology.
Now, an apology. Earlier today, we heard live from Nigel Farage speaking at that election event we just saw. And when we came away from his live speech, I used language to describe it, which didn't meet the BBC's editorial standards on impartiality. I'd like to apologise to Mr. Farage and viewers for
And that's the big competition this week. Find the adjective she used to describe Nigel Farage's speech. Special awards will be given for inventiveness, farm animals and implements of torture. And so now we move on to Fox News. Yes, Fox News, that purveyor of news that is all but news. And Judge Jean Piero, who manages to threaten you with a finger of fear while shouting loudly in your face about things that make no sense whatsoever, even to her.
All of a sudden, this defendant now is finding out what the other crime is. He was denied his Fifth Amendment right to know the charges against him in the indictment, the bill of particulars, discovery, and in the opening statement and throughout the trial.
Let's just hear that again.
Opening statement and throughout the trial.
Fear who the finger points to, Piero, for it points to thee. And so we head to GB News, formerly the home of Simon McCoy, who went from a sparkling career as one of the head honchos at BBC Newsreading Department to this.
Now, this is a story which comes in the good... It's in the good news section, but I warn you, you may not find it... Well, let me go with this. A good news story for one cat, but perhaps not so good for another. Because a family was shocked when the cat they believed they had cremated returned home as if nothing had happened a couple of days later. Now, Frankie is a 16-year-old tabby. He failed to return home. This was in Warrington last month, so his family launched a search for him. Now, a few days later, a dead cat was spotted on the M6 motorway that looked similar. Highways England were able to retrieve the animal and gave it to the family to be cremated. Much to the surprise of the family, Frankie returned home a few days later. And when Frankie reappeared, their son Remy, who's just 7, said, "It's a miracle."
Amazing, don't. I've got a tabby cat. I've always had tabby. He's crying.
I wrote that several hours ago, and it's made me laugh all over again.
So I'm a tabby cat owner. I just keep thinking, like, oh no, what about the one that was on the motorway?
Exactly, and we mustn't forget the cat that was on the M6.
Cold-hearted.
And since then, the channel has gone from strength to strength. If you include strength to be 0 and strength to be 0, you have it about right. Steve Headley is a union guy, and he got invited to speak to Isabel Oakeshott and Richard Tice. Nobody knows why, perhaps he'd committed some sort of crime, and this was his punishment. As you can imagine, it went as well as could be expected.
I'm not sure frankly, I'm not sure what's going to come out of your mouth, because
we're in a similar situation. We're in a similar situation, aren't we?
You sat there.
What's going to come out of your mouth? I see that's up there on the auto cue.
You sat there, and you're unfortunately not the auto cue. You sat there and accused me of being an advert for the Hitler Youth. How do you justify that?
Well, because
that is downright offensive.
You're an absolute fascist, right? You're
ridiculous.
You're a pair-fascist.
It's actually quite laughable.
You sit here.
Listen, honestly, this is actually a joke. It is actually a joke. If you think
that
you're
like Borat and Ali G.
You're an embarrassment for your industry. You're an embarrassment for unions.
How can you justify yourself?
It's actually laughable.
It really is laughable.
You come on here and read out an auto cue and get paid thousands of pounds. You're asking me how I justify myself.
I think you've dug your own grave. I think we'll move on. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure
for joining us. I don't think it has it? Thank you.
To be totally fair to Isabel Oakeshott, who likes to be called a fascist?
Dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
Oh, that guy, I suppose, was a bit harsh calling Isabel Oakeshott a fascist. I mean, fascists everywhere are thinking that and thinking, well, that's a bit much. They're reconsidering their position. They're sat there thinking, I sort of like the racism, misogyny, homophobia, anti-Semitism, authoritarian cruelty. I really like the uniforms. But Isabel Oakeshott? Maybe Steve did Britain a favour. Maybe the people who saw that and thought they were quite into fascism can get back to stuff that they're actually good at. Pissing in phone boxes and shouting at the sea. The important stuff.
We make room for clowns. We have them all over the city. People who do crazy things in the street, we tolerate it. It's part of the city, it's part of the culture. But not a person like Trump who will eventually run the country. That does not work, and we all know that.
Robert De Niro there, taking time out from his busy schedule of staring in a mirror and going, "You talking to me?" Of course, he wasn't the only celebrity to get on the bandwagon this week. Richard Gere found himself on a boat full of migrants appealing to people's better nature to start treating those less fortunate than ourselves with maybe a little bit more humanity.
Everyone is doing okay now. They were on two boats in the middle of the ocean. One of the boats was turned back and taken by the Libyan Navy. We don't know what happened to them. The two boats that were rescued here, probably all hands on board would have been lost. So the people that you see here on this boat, they're only here because of the donations to Open Arms, for the work that Open Arms does. And now the most important thing for these people here is to be able to get to a free port, be able to get off the boat, get on land and start a new life, be taken care of and make a life for themselves. So please support us here.
Richard Gere there featuring in the news. Little known fact about Richard Gere, his father was a famous Swedish ventriloquist called Gottler. And while we roll in the aisles at that, here's another person talking out the seat of his pants.
So I may feel differently about it. Like Hillary Clinton, I didn't say lock her up, but the people would all say lock her up, lock her up. Okay. Then we won. And I said...
Whoa. Back up. Can you just repeat that again?
Hillary Clinton, I didn't say lock her up.
Let's just verify that.
Lock her up, I'll tell you.
Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary.
Lock them up. Yeah.
Who said that? Lock her up. Stand up, please.
Lock them all up. I'll tell you something, though. It is fair to lock them up. You shouldn't lock them up. Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary.
What is going on with Omar? I've been reading these reports for 2 years about how corrupt and crooked she is. Let's get with it. Let's get with it.
They did great damage, but we'll get them fixed. We'll get them fixed. Lock them up. Yeah, lock them up.
Who accused then Judge Kavanaugh of horrible, horrible crimes. Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler, they have to be accountable. You got to get your governor to open up your state, okay?
Lock her up, I'll tell you.
Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary.
Lock them up.
So remind me, what was it you said?
Hillary Clinton, I didn't say lock her up.
Bring forth the Trump lie klaxon. And Donald Trump wasn't the only one trying to get away with a load of porkies. Rishi Sunak tried to do the same with the British public. And Keir Starmer called him a liar.
We've been very clear throughout that all of our plans are fully costed and fully funded. And that means no tax rises for working people. And I'll spell that out. No income tax, no national insurance, no VAT. What you saw last night was a Prime Minister with his back against the wall, desperately trying to defend 14 years of failure, resorting, and it was a flash of his character, an insight into his character, to lies. I don't say that lightly. To lies about Labour's plans, about health waiting lists, about, the tax, lies from the Prime Minister. And after last night, I think it's really important to appreciate that the choice at the next election is even more important, because it's a choice between more of this, chaos, division, now lies, and turning the page and rebuilding with Labour.
Wait a minute. He's just reminded me of something.
No income tax, no national insurance, no VAT.
Oh, yeah, the new Labour song.
No income tax, no VAT, no money back, and no guarantee.
This has been the ironically names Things I Didn't Have Time to Do last week.